Randy's years of hard work in high school and college football allowed him to fulfill his childhood dream of playing in the NFL. While in high school, he was one of 28 players selected to play in the coveted California High School All-Star Game in Hawaii. For the New Mexico Lobos, Randy was among the top 5 leaders in the nation in interceptions and punt returns. His years in the NFL included time with the Oakland Raiders, Cleveland Browns, and the Denver Broncos, which in 1978 took on the Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowl XII.
Welcome to Super Bowl XII. I'm Pat Summerall with Tom Brookshire.
They say there's no pressure like the pressure of a Super Bowl.
12 is underway, and it's going to be Butch Johnson. Around the 28, where he's stopped by Randy Rich.
After retiring from the NFL, he made his way back to California and is now a vice president at K-Love and Air One radio networks. Please welcome Randy Rich.
Wow. What an honor to see that clip. Randy Rich, former Lobo star and a star in life. He's gone to the mountaintop. He's 5'10", 175 pounds in the National Football League. And I tell you what, number 40 in the program, number 1 in your heart. Wow, that gave me goosebumps because Randy is our guest today. And he made note of it a few minutes ago. He said, Henry, why are you so quiet? Because this interview means a great deal to me. I've been hypertense, preoccupied, because, man, when you get a guest of this caliber who's been to the mountaintop, you got to raise your game a little bit too. I knew him as a former Lobo star, and he took off from here with that blazing speed and went to star with the Denver Broncos. Former Lobo star, Randy Rich, welcome to the Henry T. Show. How are you, buddy?
I am great, Henry, and it's an honor to be with you, man. We go back many, many years, and I'm grateful to call you my friend. Wow.
Man, I used to see you on campus, and I said, there he is. And I get to see him this Saturday in a Lobo uniform. You were humble. You talked to everybody. You were accessible. Humility, despite your great success as an athlete, as a businessman, whatever, you're always accessible. I want to start right there. Humble Randy Rich all the time. How about the word humility? Let's start there.
Well, I like to think of that, Henry. I'm sure there are some that would maybe argue that with you. I don't know. But, you know, my mom, who was a professional baseball player back in the 1930s, always said, no, never forget where you've come from. And where I came from was from a very humble, low-income neighborhood right across the street from the railroad tracks in Oildale, California, which was a suburb of Bakersfield. And always proud to be from Oildale, but you know, there was no place but up after I left Oildale. And I was proud to be a Lobo.
How did we find you? Who went out there to grab you and recruit you to be a New Mexico Lobo?
Well, it started with Bill Mont. He was the first person to connect with me from New Mexico, and he was the offensive coordinator at the time. And then John Becker was the defensive back coach, and they sort of tag teamed with me, and I was being recruited by Arizona State and some local colleges in California. And you know, all it took for me, Henry, was to take a trip to the Land of Enchantment. And on that trip, they paid such close attention to my questionnaire as to what I was interested in. and they took me fishing and showed me the outdoors. I met someone that ended up being my mentor in sharing the gospel with me and sharing the Bible. And met Bobby Unser, and got a letter from, back then it was okay. I got a letter from Bobby and Al Unser. I got a letter from the Governor King at that time, and I mean, did a great job of recruiting, and they just made you feel like you were wanted. And I was so happy to become a Lobo.
Wow.
And I'm one of three in our family that have been Lobos.
Really?
So my brother Daryl went to New Mexico 20 years before me on a track scholarship, was a shot putter. Back when Larry Kennedy and them, they had the number 1 or 2 track team in the United States. And then after I played 20 years later, my nephew Chad actually broke my punt return record. And I was there at Lobo Field when he did it that day. It was pretty cool.
My goodness. What a story.
Yeah.
That's why this story carries so much weight with me today, because it's unique, it's exciting. But I want to talk about the parenting that went on in your home when you were a kid in California, growing up, how mom and dad kept you on the straight and narrow, what the inspiration environment literally was like for you.
Well, Henry, and I wrote a book about this called Nothing Wasted. I did not have a dad in my life. He was a hardworking, always gone truck driver, and my mom was the real glue that kept our family together. And she was the motivation in our family. She loved her kids. She sacrificed for her kids. Her whole life was around her kids, and I'm not sure that was real healthy for her. But my dad hadn't even seen me play a football game until I was a senior in college. So he had retired, and that would freed him up to do that. But came from a low income family, and with the whole idea that if you work hard, you stay true to the calling that you feel in your heart to do, that it will pay off. And so those were the things that my mom instilled in me. My dad, if he taught me one thing, it was a work ethic, because he worked 70, 80, 90 hours a week. I remember him coming home, taking a shower, getting in bed, because he'd been gone a day and a half, and then they make a phone call and he had to get up out of bed and go get in the truck and drive again. So that work ethic, I think, was a demonstration that I just clung to my whole life. So
Wow, what a story.
yeah.
But whatever happened during those early days is with you today, because your work ethic mimics your dad. Your nice guy ways that your mom showed you, your ability to start and finish, be attentive to your studies, and being the great student that you were, you can carry conversation with the presidents and whomever, all the way down to all the way up, sideways, right side. There's nobody that Randy Rich can't carry on a conversation with.
Well, I learned that. I learned that talking to you, Henry. I learned all that talking to you.
Well, I mean, really, those are qualities that you don't take for granted after a while, because you've used them through all your life as a student at UNM, in friendships, as an athlete, as a businessman. Wow, there was.
Henry, I was the baby of 6 kids, and seriously, my older brothers really were like surrogate dads to me. They were old enough to be my dad, some of them. They were the ones that went to the father-son football banquets. They were the ones that showed up. They were actually played football, and they were my inspiration when I was a little kid in elementary school. I remember climbing over or under the fence to go to North High School and watch them play on Friday night because I didn't have money to pay, so I snuck in. But that's yeah, they were an inspiration.
The awareness of being a good person, being a good student, has carried you since day one. Talk about that development.
Well, again, I think, the whole mindset is, I remember my mom, talking, not really understanding clearly what it truly meant, but she always reminded me how important it was who I hung out with. And we refer to that in our program right now, this day, we call it the circle of trust. Who's in your circle of trust? And I, to this very day, Henry, have three guys that were my best friends in elementary school that are still my best friends today. Men of character, men who have led a very fruitful life, and always there, no matter what happens, they would always be there. I know I could count on them. That was an important factor. And then later on, when I came to understand the importance of knowing what it was about to be a follower of Christ, I then began to follow and be discipled by men who had gone before me that could help me, maneuver through life's choices, life's mistakes, and realize that, again, I am not trying to sell my book or anything, but I have a book called Nothing Wasted, that when you look to the Lord, even your defeats, there's not one thing wasted in your life to that can be used as an example or a building block to move forward, and always moving forward. You're never standing still. You got to be moving, because if you think you're standing still, you're really going backwards. And you've heard that phrase many times, and I understood that, and it was like a stick-to-itiveness was developed in me at an early age, that you just stick to it. Just stick to it. Follow that dream that I believe God puts in every one of our hearts. He's put a dream in our heart, and we need to pursue it, because when you do, you'll find your wheelhouse. And when you're in your wheelhouse, nothing gets better than that. Look what you've done all your life. You've been in your wheelhouse, man. You've been a broadcaster. You've interviewed the best, and that fulfills you. It gives you fulfillment. When you're fulfilled, then you're a great friend, and you're a great person to be around, hopefully, and I believe that. So that's a little bit of my philosophy.
How early in life did you realize where your spiritual strength came from?
Henry, it came right between my senior year in high school and my freshman year in college. I was at that California All-Star game that was alluded to in the intro, and I got word Friday night before the Saturday night game that my best friend was killed in a car accident. And he was a guy that had come home several months before that at Christmas. He was a year older than me, Mark Drennan. He was at the University of Washington. And he came home and told me he had met somebody that changed his life. And I thought it was a girl. And he said it was Jesus Christ. And he told me all about it. And I remember looking at Mark saying, yeah, right, okay. He said, God had a plan for me. I said, okay. So fast forward to that night before the game, I got the word that he had been killed. And I really thought, what in the heck was he talking about, God having a plan? Mark was dead. Well, a couple of weeks later, I went to a Fellowship of Christian Athlete conference in Santa Barbara, California. And the guy that stood up there and shared his testimony that really impacted me was a guy by the name of Don Cockroft. Okay. And Don Cockroft spoke as if he was speaking just to me. And there were 1,200 young men there. And I remember going up to my room and asking God if he was real, to be, the Lord of my life, and come in and fill any of the voids that I had that I couldn't fill with inappropriate relationships or sports or anything. I still had an emptiness that wasn't fulfilled. And man, that was the night that God and I began a journey together. And it's been sweet. Now, one funny caveat to this, Henry. is I'm a senior in high school. Don Cockcroft speaks, punter kicker for the Cleveland Browns. Fast forward in my life through college. Now, after playing for the Broncos, I get picked up by the Cleveland Browns, and I was asked to go to a Bible study by Calvin Hill. You remember that running back from the, he was traded to the Cleveland Browns. But anyway, Calvin said, "You want to go to a Bible study?" My first weekend I got there, because we were both staying in a hotel. And I said, "Yeah." We went, knocked on the door. Don Cockcroft opened that door. And I got in there, sat down. He said, "Okay, hey, what's your name again?" I said, "Randy." He goes, "Why don't you tell us all your testimony?" I said, and I told that story, and man, he was in tears, because that was a year he thought that he shouldn't go because he wasn't living up to the expectation he had for himself as a Christian. He thought, what good could I do? And he went, and it was his talk that impacted my life. And I remember us as a whole group for the Cleveland Browns that were at that meeting that night, that we agreed that no matter when or what opportunity you had, you share the gospel, because you never know how it's going to land and how God's going to use that word to change a person's life. I might have gone a little longer than you wanted, Henry, but I needed to tell that story.
No, you got a lot of time here. We have a full hour with Randy Rich today, ladies and gentlemen, and I want your undivided attention, because Randy's got more than football to talk about, and we're going to get to all of it, but his football is great, so I don't want to miss any of that. And of course, he played for my team, the Denver Broncos. I was converted from being a Dallas fan to being a Bronco fan by my son, Aaron. But we went to training camp in northern New Mexico or northern Colorado, the Bronco training camp. And John Elway was so nice to my son. I looked around for my son, where's Aaron? And he's walking to the locker room with John Elway. They're just having a chit chat and playing catch along the way. And that moment, I became a Bronco fan because of the way Elway treated my son. An amazing, and Aaron, as you well know, used to go everywhere with me when I was broadcasting, well, basketball, football, whatever, and the airline stewardesses and whomever, they always saw us together going off to report these games. But that was a big, big hit, positive hit in my son's life. And he'll never forget it. We talk about it to this day.
So that's a very good point, Henry. You never know what your attentiveness towards an individual. You never know what they're going through, number one. And then number two, you never know how the Lord might use that to impact a person's life, to consider the journey they're on, and how it's been working for them, and what could be different maybe to alter that course. So you know, you never know that. I'll never forget. I did spend a very short period of time with the Houston Oilers. I was trying to get back and get one more season in for my retirement, and I was in camp with Earl Campbell when he was with the Houston Oilers. And I'll never forget this. And matter of fact, it's so exciting because I work with his son, Tyler Campbell, now, and we do stuff all over the country. But Earl Campbell impressed me in this way. He would stay out there during two-a-days, the morning practice, afternoon practice. He would stay out there, sign every young kid's autograph that asked him for one, and would not come in until it was done. And I'd played with guys, I won't mention their names, that I'd watched them almost run over kids because they didn't want anything to do with them, to get into the locker room because they wanted to go in and take a shower or whatever, you know. And that's that whole mind frame of never forget where you came from, because you're not bigger than those little kids, because you were a little kid one time wanting that autograph, right?
Amen.
And it's I'll never forget that time when I was in 8th grade and I went down to the Los Angeles Rams and we saw a game, and we went to the tunnel and we all had our paper visors that we were getting autographs, and Deacon Jones and Merlin Olsen and all those guys. And I'll never forget how those guys just stood there and talked to me. You know, they talked to me. They didn't just sign an autograph and say, here. They said, what's your name? You know, and they'd talk to me. And I never forgot that. I thought, boy, made me feel so important, you know, just like you're talking about.
What do you attribute the physical success to? You're 5'10", 175. I mean, you were small as a Lobo, but then all of a sudden you got scouts coming after you. You become a Bronco, and you're quick as an alley cat. You're fast. You hit everyone hard, and but you were small as a Lobo. You're small as a Bronco. You start at both places. You were in a Super Bowl. You play a little bit for the Oakland Raiders and a lot more with the Browns. And then you just told us about the Houston Oilers. But you were small to NFL standards everywhere you went. What do you attribute that physical success to? Because that's a violent game, Coach.
Henry, I think goes back to because you're right. I'll tease and tell people I'm proof that God has a sense of humor. Okay, because He took this short little white guy, okay, who wasn't very big, wasn't very fast, in relation to others that were playing in the secondary at that time, and enabled me to play. And I think it's you kind of hit on it. I had a here's my career. Okay, started with the Broncos, got released, picked up by the Detroit Lions the next season, made it with that team, but then I got released. Then I got picked back up by the Denver Broncos, went to the Super Bowl. The next year I was released, picked up by the Oakland Raiders, okay, and then played a few games with them. Then I got released. Then I was picked up by the Cleveland Browns, stayed there 2 years, and was released after the second year. And then I signed with the Oakland Raiders, I mean the Houston Oilers, like I said, to try to get one more year of my retirement, and then I was released. So didn't have a glamorous, you know. I told my wife at the time, "You marry me, I'll show you the world." Right? She was driving all over the country, but the truth is, it wasn't easy. But you have to stick to the calling you have in your heart. Don't give up. And so that, and I always, I think my brother once told me, hey, if you hit that guy, even if he's bigger, harder than he hits you, it'll hurt him more than it will hurt you. Well, I was foolish enough to believe that. And I just tried to hit guys harder than they were going to hit me. And I don't know, there were times that I certainly got up a little slower than others, but I really am grateful. I've come out of the game of football. I got both knees intact, both shoulders intact. Some would consider my head's not really intact, but for the most part, it is.
Well, you made the starting lineup at your size, and your speed was very obvious, and your tenacity, and that ability to put mind over matter and say, I'm going to hit that guy harder than hits me because you were a hitter, Randy Rich. Did it ever hurt to try to tackle some of those monsters?
Oh yeah, Henry. I've had opportunities to say this many times. I played against people like O.J. Simpson, Earl Campbell, Franco Harris, Walter Payton. And I'll probably tell you that the hardest hit I ever received was from Walter Payton.
Wow.
Knocked me down on the ground. I'll never forget it. I wasn't knocked out, but I was certainly dizzy and close to the sideline of the other team, Chicago Bears. And the coach or trainer came over and looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" And I looked up at him and I said, "I think so." And then all of a sudden I realized I couldn't see out of my left eye. And I started to panic. I thought I knocked my left eyeball out. So I said, "I can't see, I can't see." And you know how helmet has your mask like this and then two ear holes? Well,
Yeah.
my mask was twisted around like that, and I was looking out that ear hole like that. And he said, just a minute. And he twisted my helmet back around. He says, is that better? And I said, oh, yeah, I can see now. Well, that was a hit from Walter Payton.
This, ladies and gentlemen, he's in the defensive backfield in the Super Bowl, Denver against Dallas, and number 12, the all-timer for the Dallas Cowboys, is the quarterback looking right at, checking off a play that Randy was coming up and feel or he was going to blitz. Quarterback for the Cowboys that day, Roger Staubach. Wow.
Yeah.
He played against the
What
man.
an unbelievable. Yeah. Tony Dorsett's rookie year. Robert Newhouse was the other running back. Preston Pearson, Drew Pearson. Those were the, wide receivers, Tony Hill. And yeah, that was a great team that Dallas had, but we also had a great team. But the difference in that game was the quarterback, Roger Staubach against Craig Morton. And Craig had just, his wheels had too much tread on them, so to speak. And the Dallas Doomsday defense got after him pretty good that day. But again, an honor and a privilege. There's only about 3,200 players that have ever played in a Super Bowl game, Henry. If you think about that, 3,200 players, that's quite a small fraternity. And I know this. God kept me in a place of humility, but he also provided that opportunity. And I think for this reason, I could never say, look at me, look what I did. I go in and speak at schools and young people, and the first thing they look at and they say, you were a player? You're too little. I said, yeah, but God can do great things if you yield your life to him. So God utilized my inefficiencies or deficiencies to demonstrate that God can do great things through that which looks impossible. He takes the impossible and makes it possible. And I believe that's what happened in my life playing the game of football.
Do you recall on the field during that time, whether in the defensive huddle or, man, it's hut 1, hut 2, and you're back there and you're ready and your keys are the tight end or a man in motion and you've got that concentration. Were you ever literally in prayer on the field?
I was, but it was not playing in the secondary. I'll tell you where I was in prayer. When I would go back to receive a punt, okay? Because you got guys like Thomas Henderson, who was a madman on special teams, Benny Barnes, who was another guy that was great, and you're back there in front of 80,000 people. That ball is kicked. You're by yourself. It hangs for 40 yards in the air. And you're looking up to see that ball, but you can see in your peripheral vision guys running at you. And all I could ever think to myself is, Lord, let me catch this football. Let me catch this football. I don't care if I get hit, just let me catch this football. And I am so grateful to know that in the punt returns that I had in the NFL, I never dropped the ball. So God does answer prayers.
And that's a question I guarantee is few and far between. Talking to a believer like you, and there are many throughout the football league or the NFL, but I don't know if any media member asks that question too regularly or often enough or one time period in their broadcast career. So it's a rare question. So I appreciate the rare answer. And that was a great answer because he's been your leader throughout your life. Why not when you're receiving a punt return or a kickoff?
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it's not just in a football game, Henry. It's in the game of life. If at any time we think we got control of it, we're really kind of fooling ourselves. God's in control. He's the one that created the day. So first thing I try to every day when I get up is, Lord, what do you have in store for this day? because it would be foolish for me to get up and enter into the day that God created without talking to him about it. I think in that friendship that you can experience in a relationship with the Lord is that he's not doesn't want control of your life to make you a puppet. He just wants you to abide and understand the principles that he set forth, because you're going to enjoy life. It's going to be more meaningful, and it's going to be more beneficial. And I believe it'd be more productive. And I believe with all my heart, I'll always say that it was never my talent that, because talent will get you into the room, but character keeps you there. And that character can only be built and established, I believe, with the people you associate with, what you listen to on a day-to-day basis, what you read, and again, all of that put together and held with the glue of a relationship with the Lord.
Well, I went to Mile High Stadium on many occasions, many of them with my son. We love the Broncos. And I remember you out there too. But what a violent game. I was on the sideline and watching the speed, the power, the hits, enormous crashes on that field, the violent tone, just the description, the word itself. Is it literally there? The word violent.
Oh yeah, and Henry, we just had an Orange Crush, Denver Bronco Orange Crush reunion 2 years ago, and I'm sorry to tell you there are only 14 guys left from that defense, and many of them prematurely passed away because of that violence. Head injuries and other causes that just put so much stress on the body that took their life. I would say earlier than you would expect. Nothing's premature. God has a day we're born. He has a day we die. But the point is, when you look at it and see that the cause of death was, due to head injuries or whatever, and a lot of those guys still struggling, with the cognitive, ability to process, in their life and work through their life. So, yeah, very violent game. I think what's encouraging to me today is some of the new rules that they've put in place, plus the equipment has been it's been evolving into more protection and giving the players the ability to be protected. The speed, it seems faster to me than it was when I played. I don't know. It seems faster. They seem bigger. But when you got a tight end that's 265 pounds that runs a 4.6 40, which is fast. If you don't know how fast that is, that's fast. Running down the middle and you got to tackle him head on. I wouldn't want to be doing that today.
Well, it's what an honor to be with you today, Randy, and you made note that we've been friends a long time.
Yep.
And being a broadcaster, and I started at another little station, and then one day you came up to me and contacted me and said, "Now you were the executive at the beautiful modern FM station," and you flattered me. I said, "Henry, come, let's talk. I like what you do. Would you like to broadcast some games for me?" Yeah. And I was over thrilled that you gave me that opportunity. I mean, you had microphones and everything.
Well, that's kind of how it works. You have to have a microphone. If you were at the station that didn't have one, they were just playing with you. But no, Henry, that was with K-Light Radio in Albuquerque, and we were the first radio station. It was a Christian radio station that really highlighted a game of the week for high school sports. And I remember you and a guy by the name of Jimmy Williams, who used to play basketball for the Lobos. You guys did a great job. I think we had the best team in Albuquerque at the time, and we won some national awards in the Christian Broadcasting Association. 2 years in a row, we won Station of the Year for our sports broadcasts. And so, it was again, you look for ways to support young people in positive things for their life. And I believe athletics is a positive experience for life. I learned things in football I could never have learned in the classroom. You know, the camaraderie that you build, the unselfishness that the game of football really is. I don't know, kind of bothers me today. A lot of guys are more worried about their name and their brand than they are their team. But back then, it was 43 guys on a team, and we worked together and we bled together, and it was a great experience. I'll never be able to exchange that for other lessons that I learned in life.
Well, you were such a leader to us all, and we had to, man, we had to do it right, or don't be here at all. And you were tough. I mean, it was tough love, tough leadership from General Manager Randy Rich, and then uh, a catalyst for me to go on and do TV work and all kinds of things because of that strong leadership. And you wanted it done right. And so we followed your leadership, and we go back a long, long way. Now, I want to talk about your wife, children, what's happened along the way, and what you're doing today. Are you still a Lobo fan? So wherever you want to go in all of that, start where you'd like.
Well, you bring something up, and again, it's a big part of my book, Nothing Wasted. Henry, of all the things that I've succeeded in, there's one lingering failure that I'll always live with. And that is that after 22 years of marriage, I pretty much wore my wife out, and she filed for divorce, and I went through a grueling period of my life. I mean, I'd rather have the Denver Bronco defense take me out in the backyard and just beat the heck out of me, because at some point it would be done. But having gone through that, that was a life lesson that really, really changed my life. But we had three daughters, and I do today. I have three daughters and 9 grandkids, and have relationships, close relationships with a couple of them that really make it so sweet. But then, here's again, nothing wasted. God allowed me, after 6 years or 8 years of being divorced, to remarry my wife today, Kathy, and we've been married 9 years and going on 10 next June. So, but the point is, even in your failures, it's important to know that God uses failures to develop character if you turn to Him. And that was the key in the book that I wrote, was no matter what you've gone through, whether it's good or bad, if you turn to the Lord and seek His direction and advice and move forward, nothing will be wasted in your life. Nothing will be wasted. And so I love family. I come from a big family, 6 kids. I mentioned that to you. I talk to my siblings every day, literally every day on the phone. And there's nothing more important than family. But family comes in a lot of different ways. Family came in the form of a football team. Family can come in the form of a classroom. It can come physically with your family. Family comes with people like you, Henry, your family. So, just whoever you allow in that circle of trust is going to influence your choices. And let me tell you, choices that you make today are going to impact your life tomorrow. I heard it said this way, and I want to share this with you, that every one of us one day will have to sit down at the banquet of consequences and eat from the choices we've made. And so my encouragement, and I love to have people around me encourage me this way, is, man, consider those choices and how it can impact your life tomorrow. Because I made some bad choices, Henry, that that impacted my life after football that I wished I never had gone through. But I did, and God used it to form in me character that maybe I could not have, I might not have ever learned before. And the only regret that I would have is that it took that kind of situation for me to get to that place to learn and listen to God.
Business came naturally to you. I mean, you're a competitor, born and raised competitor. In our business, the broadcast business, competitors are everywhere. Somebody's trying to do a better job in the air, or play-by-play guys trying to compete. Who's better? Who's more descriptive? Who's more colorful? You, as an administrator, trying to get the ratings and putting together the winning teams on the air. The challengers are there. But no matter what I saw you in, you would take a deep breath. You always had that composure. You always had that look of confidence that you gave to all of us that, hey guys.
It's not this look, is it, Henry?
You never panicked. You always had that poise.
Yeah.
But you
Well,
always,
Henry, I believe that, I believe this, that just like with you, if you put people in a position to grow and develop in their gifting, then it takes very little management to have them succeed. And when everybody around you succeeds, then you succeed. You've heard this before, and it's a principle that I believe is true, that if you help others succeed, you'll find that your life will be a success. And I always had this saying, and I was hard on people too. I know that. I regret some of my years back at K-Light that that I was probably too much of the football player type in the office than I should have been. But I know this, that I used to tell people when I hired them, look, I like to have the freedom to do what you've hired me to do. So I do that with you. And I would always say, I'm going to give you all the rope you need to do what you want to do. And you can either tie a beautiful ribbon or you can hang yourself. And I'm going to be here to help you not hang yourself. Let's tie a pretty ribbon, but you have the talent, you have the ability, you've got the vision, you've got the character. And if you support people in that manner, they'll go further than you can imagine. And matter of fact, you should be always cultivating to replace yourself with quality people like that.
amen. Good friend of ours together. He loved you. He loved saying your name on the radio. And when I heard the great Mike Roberts tell me about what Randy Rich is doing on the field, man, that was a thrill together, because I loved you as a player and I really admired Mike as a broadcaster. All of us took a page out of Mike Roberts' book, and I took my share of pages too, because he was the teacher, El Maestro. He showed us all how to do it.
Yeah. Mike Roberts, I had the privilege of working with Mike for a couple of years on radio with KOB there in Albuquerque. And I learned from him for sure. He was all business. You would never have known that he had put the kind of work that he had put in to have a broadcast be as successful as he did. But he taught me how to prepare for a game and how to get ready for it. And him and another guy I worked with too, Jim Lawwell. Jim Lawwell was a great broadcaster, a professional, and we did some TV on the Fox station there in Albuquerque for a couple of years. So again, it's like, hey, if you want to succeed, get around the best people and learn from them. And set your sights high. I mean, I've had parents tell me, hey, don't encourage my kid to believe in himself enough that he could play football. And I'd look at him, I'd say, man, you haven't been around me long enough I'm never going to tell your kid not to pursue their dream. If that's their dream, and don't you squash their dreams, because there's enough going on out there. People put labels on people. They tell them they're too small, too slow, not good enough, wrong neighborhood, Nobody ever from that town ever did anything any good. People start believing that, and that's unfortunate because, when people's dreams are taken away, it might mean that we don't have a surgeon that could have made a difference in somebody's life on the operating table because nobody believed they could be a doctor. Or perhaps there's a story out there that never got told because someone said it would be foolish to be an author. You could take that in every direction, Henry. I just think you support people, encourage them, because even if they fail, they're going to be better having plotted out a plan and set goals to achieve something than to sit back and say, "Oh, I can't ever do that. I'll never be able to do that." That's just not acceptable to me. God's given us a great opportunity. He's given us tools. He's given us talents and ability. Man, what a better place to live than the United States. And so anyway, I don't want to ramble on, but I just think there's so much that any of us, I just know that that's what happened in my life. There were people that sowed into my life and believed in me to do what I got to do.
Today, what is Randy Rich doing?
Today, I work at the Educational Media Foundation. You might hear some of our guys outside. I don't know if you hear them or not walking by, but we Educational Media Foundation operates K-Love and Air One Radio Network. And I head up a department called Dare to Dream. That's my shirt there, Dare to Dream. Amen. And Henry, we go into schools all over the country. And we're a school assembly program that starts with an assembly, challenging young students to consider the choices they're making, the labels they're wearing, circle of trust, and then leaving behind a development guide that teachers can take what we talk about and go deeper with it in the classroom to help build a culture of trust and just a healthy culture in that classroom. And so we've been doing that for the last 5 years, 6 years now. And of course, this last year we had to take it all virtually, but guess what? It works that way too. So it's just been a lot of fun. So I'm pinch myself all the time getting to do the things that I've gotten to do. And I've never considered it work. It's just been the fulfillment of the things that God's put in my heart to do. So it's been good.
Young people today, are they daring to dream? Are they as ambitious of a youngster as you used to be at that youthful age?
Yeah, Henry, absolutely. We see from the north, the south, the east, and the west, we've been all over the United States in front of almost 500,000 students, and they've got dreams. And what's sad is you do see that the core of the family has deteriorated quite a bit more since we were little kids. And from that, students sometimes can't believe that things could be different for them. But when our speakers tell their story and how they overcame adversity, it gives them hope. And I'll just say this: if you don't have hope, you don't have anything. You have to have hope. And so our program is geared to, we talk about this all the time. We just want to put our stick in your bucket of dreams and stir up hope. Because if this short little white guy from Oildale, California, could rise up to become a Super Bowl player, what is preventing you from doing all that you want to do? And really the answer is you, right? It's usually you. So we want to encourage those students to get around people that'll support them. Hopefully it'll be their parents, but if not, there's some teachers in that classroom that will. There's administrators, there's coaches that'll sow into their life like they did in my life. There are people, you just have to seek them out. And so you got to have the want to get it done. And that's what we try to do, is to stir up that little spark of belief that there could be enormous things happen in their life if they would dare to dream about it.
Well, when you were a youngster and playing high school football, even as a Lobo, Roger Staubach was a big star.
Yeah.
There you are on the field with him. And I hope you got a pick on him that day, or on a safety blitz, you tackled him or something. But
No,
were you awestruck being on the field with the great number 12?
I was awestruck those first few games that I played in the NFL. I remember playing against Fran Tarkington
Wow.
against the Minnesota Vikings. And if you remember that name, Henry, he was an inspiration because he wasn't very big. He was 5'9". And I remember playing against them in Mile High Stadium. And that was one of the first games I ever played in. And I thought to myself, I can't believe I'm playing against guys that I watched. They were my heroes, right? Like Roger Staubach. And no, I did not get a pick from him. Wished I would have. I'd fake a football with his name on it, but I do have a football over here that's signed and it says to Randy Rich, best wishes, Bart Starr.
Wow.
And that, I didn't get to play against Bart Starr, but I got to meet him. And so, athletics has been a neat thing. Playing against Terry Bradshaw, uh, gosh, I can't think of his name. The quarterback down at Bob Greasy. I played against Bob Greasy. So yeah, there were some folks that I got to play against. It was incredible.
So you played against that unbeaten Miami team.
Well, they were unbeaten before I got there, but yes, I did. I got to play against some of those guys, Larry Zonka
Wow.
and Jim Kick. Yeah, yeah, Mercury Morris, those guys. Yeah.
Amazing story. Well, there's a coaching change at New Mexico. Danny Gonzalez is our new leader. Rocky Long they came together from San Diego State to be our new leaders. Danny is fired up, just like Rocky. They won their last two games of the year and last season. And the culture, the environment, the attitude in our city as fans has changed just because of those two wins at the end of the season. What do you foresee? What do you feel? What's your vision for the future of Lobo football, Randy?
Henry, I have a lot of hope for the team, and I have a lot of hope for the program. And I think whoever was in the seat of making those decisions made the right decisions. You want people who want to build tradition, who have tradition and history with the school. You can have a hireling like New Mexico had before Danny. Okay, he was a hireling. He was there for the check, and I'm sorry because I got to know that man, and he wasn't the right guy. You got to have history, and the mere fact that Danny was able to call on Rocky Long and say, "Come and let's do this together," not as the head coach, but as an assistant coach, speaks volume of Rocky Long and his love and heart for New Mexico football. Again, both those guys, ex-Lobos, they know history, and hopefully they'll build deeper tradition. Hopefully they'll build a stronger alumni unit, which is necessary. And I look out here in California. I don't get to see many Lobo games, but boy, I look for them when they're on that ESPN2 and they're playing Fresno State or San Jose State or somebody like that. That they show up. I watch them loyal. I'm loyal to the Lobos.
Wow. Will you be there in the seats on the first night in our stadium, our first home game?
Well, it depends, Henry. What's going on in my world at that time? Because many times I'm traveling around the country during the week to conduct assemblies in schools. So it all depends on that. I'd certainly love to. I don't want to be in the stands ever. I want to be on the sideline.
Amen.
Or yeah, I don't want to be in the stands. I want to be on the sidelines. And I know they can only have so many guys on the sidelines, but yeah, I want to be there cheering guys on, patting them on the shoulder when they come off the field doing something good, or going over there and looking at them and get their chin up if they did something wrong. Because that's the thing about football. You got about 30 seconds to change your mind and change your way and do it again. You might make a mistake, but in 30 seconds, you get a chance to do it over.
The hardest hit you ever put on a player, do you recall?
Well, I thought it was the hardest hit I put on, but he just absolutely hit me a little harder, and that was Walter Payton.
Come on, you hit
Yeah.
somebody good. You hit him flush.
Well, that was the problem though, Henry. Here was the deal. When I went to hit Walter Payton, there's a rule in tackling. You always keep your head in the front side of the player. That means you're delivering the blow. Well, Walter Payton either put on a move or I closed my eyes, and I don't like to think I closed my eyes. That would mean like I was, getting ready to get hit. But my head went to the backside of Walter Payton, and man, he put a hit on my left shoulder that really became a nemesis for me, and is why I ended my career early. I just couldn't overcome my left shoulder. And it's fine now, but boy, I couldn't take hits anymore.
We've known each other a long time, and few times have we ever been in this setting. And I was so preoccupied over the weekend that I was going to be in an interview setting with my good friend, great football star, professional radio businessman, Randy Rich. I don't know if I slept much. I've been so preoccupied with the joy of looking forward to this moment. I just got to say thank you for saying yes to Henry T to do this show for all the world today.
Well, I can't imagine anybody saying no to Henry T. And I'd do it. I'd do it for you anytime, Henry. It's an honor. It's more of an honor for me. The integrity, the history that you have in New Mexico sports. Where else would anybody that's been long forgotten like myself want to get with than Henry T. No other guy.
You're kind, buddy. Well, I don't know what more to say, but I'm going to have you say bye to our audience and something out of your heart for New Mexico. Of course, we're going all over the world on the internet, but New Mexico's watching you today, Randy Rich.
Well, if they're watching me, I want them to know and only see one thing, and that hopefully that would be a testimony of what God has done in a person's life. I've had a lot of successes, a lot of failures. I've talked about it in this hour of time, but I just want to say, God's not looking to control your life. He's not looking to snuff you out. He's looking to provide an opportunity to build a friendship with him that's going to give you direction, that's going to give you fulfillment in life. And of all the things I could say today, talking about football or whatever, there's nothing more important than don't look at people, don't look at churches, what they've done wrong or whatever. Just look at the scripture, look at a relationship with Jesus and see what that really would mean for you. And I can just tell you, Henry, it'll be a good thing.
We have 5 seconds left. God bless you, Randy Rich. We'll do it again. Thank you to our sponsors, and thank you to Alden down at ProView and Jimmy Tran, our producer. We'll say a hurried, take care of yourself, Randy. See you soon.